not something that I did when I was in college. So we just,
Yes, sir.
kind of a culmination of the week. We just get up and down.
Yeah. Are you seeing? Can you talk about the improvements and then that have been made and improvements that still need to be made? You feel like with this team throughout those scrimmages?
Yeah, no, we're accomplishing what I want to accomplish. The thing I set out to accomplish this summer, and then when we got back to school, was I wanted to be in shape. It bothered me last year that I felt like a lot of times we weren't the best conditioned team. And so when you're not the best conditioned team, you're not going to be the best thinking team. And when you're not the best thinking team, it leads to everything that to me are game killers. That's live ball turnovers. That's no box out, giving up offensive rebounds. That's just not remembering the game plan, based on fatigue. So that was one thing I wanted to address with those things that I just said. And so that's been big for us, and attention to detail. And creating those great habits. I thought that was another thing. You can't be, and it's no knock on nobody. I think everybody on any given night, the beauty of college is anybody can beat anybody, but that's what it looked like to me. We had some good wins. What it looked like to me is, man, we just got up for the best team. So getting up for the best team, you got to get up for the teams that's on your level.
Yes, sir.
So we had a bunch of opportunities, and it sticks out at me because there were three games early that I thought dictated our season, and had we just went 2-1 instead of 0-3, it could have changed our perspective. We lose at home to Notre Dame, we lose at home to BC, and we lose at home to Pitt. In all three games, we win in the second half. And so for me, I think about that. It's not about Carolina, it's not about Duke, it's not about those teams. I was always taught that you win your home games and you hold serve at home and you good, and now you're playing with house money. But who would have thought us playing with house money, you would be 14s out of the top of our league. It don't make any sense. That's not really how it works, but that's how it works. So that's all I care about is just our conditioning and where our mind is. I just want to be consistent because basketball-wise, I don't think that we're too far off from anyone. We've gotten bigger. We've gotten bigger. We've got who I feel is a guy that can help us close games. Javion McCullum, a guy that can make plays off the dribble. Along with Nate, thought we needed another playmaker. I thought we added our guys that are coming back. You guys getting 3 starters back in this day and era. That's a great thing. So we were able to do that as well. Nate, Kuwasi, and Bai coming back. So, looking forward to seeing how those guys can make a jump, especially Nate and Bai. Freshman year to sophomore year, I always say that's one of the biggest jumps you can take. Most people think it's easy. That's not easy. It's not easy jumps. The great ones can, but you got to understand you're on the front of the top of the scouting report, so they're going to know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and try to take some things away. So you got to really prepare. But they've done that, and looking forward to seeing their growth.
Coach, what is the current identity and culture? What does that look like for this team, and what does that look like for this team in terms of where you think that it can go or that you want it to be at what point?
We right now, the accountability is there. I only question one thing. So to me, toughness equates to mental toughness only. Because I just don't think, I think that if your mind controls your body, you always do. When your body controls your mind in sports, you just don't make it. And so as long as we can keep the right mind frame, we can do whatever we want to. I believe it. I believe, injury, stay injury free. obviously. But I believe the culture of accountability is sustainable. I think guys are bought in. And even with that being said, I'm all right, excuse my language, but I'm all right with a little shit. See, I don't mind that. See, I think you need a couple of them. You need a couple of them. See, I've coached them my whole life. You know, where I've come from in coaching, man, I didn't have the luxury, so I had to do the JUCO thing and go find some JUCOs to be successful in different things, man. So I don't mind that. So you always need a little guy. You always need a guy or two that's rough around the edges to help with that culture, because you know they're gonna compete every day. They're gonna do the things that you need them to do as long as they're loved on. I think we tend to sometimes, we're all guilty of it. Each and every one of us as coaches have been guilty of it at some point, of giving up on the kid. Before you give up on the kid, you have to ask yourself, did I do everything to help the kids? And the first thing you got to start with is the relationship part. You got to have a relationship with each one of your guys to create a culture, because you got team rules and then you got they rules, and that's how it goes.
Do you feel comfortable in identifying any of those guys who are a little rough around the edges on your team?
Nah.
That was worth asking.
On the topic of a couple things you touched on with roster building, what's been the challenges with roster building, and what's your kind of strategy in roster building in terms of transfers versus recruiting and finding the right pieces to build a roster each year?
I think I'm a little different in how I do rosters, but I'm glad you asked that question, because I kind of look around the country. You know, most of the coaches I talk to, they ask me how I deal with the money. You know, because most people, they look at it as, you know, you got to pay somebody, you know, to get them to your team. No, what NIL has done is it's made guys lazy. Nobody talk about it.
Make coaches lazy, or
yes, man,
okay.
Made them lazy, because you got to work a little harder now. And I don't mean work a little harder with identifying the kid that everybody know about. You got to work a little harder finding the hidden gem. 11 through 15 on your roster, because we're losing 2 scholarships now. So after this year, I think it is, you'll go to 15 scholarships. 11 through 15 like the G League. 10 through 8, a little bit better. 7 through 4, connectors. 1 through 3, franchise players. So what's your value for what that look like? See, you can't pay 15. That's not even realistic, right? So 11 through 15, right? You're not recruiting a 5-star. Matter of fact, go find a no-star. See if you like somebody's talent. See how you actually can develop a player. That's the problem. Nobody wants to develop them. The first thing they say is, well, man, we got to win now. You do, but and nobody playing 15 players. You're only playing 8. So 1 through 8. And then you got another 7 players. So you still got to get a practice squad. You still got to do different things. But see, I just think guys, again, it's not a normal for college coaches. So we're dealing in a new normal. So in a new normal, roster construction has never been talked about. That's why all of a sudden everybody talking about we're going to get a GM and we're going to do all that. We'll eventually get a GM, but we're going to get a GM because I don't feel like crunching numbers. Because the reality of it is I know what I'm looking at. And I just said it, like, take this for example. Again, yes, I had to pay him last year, or pay him this year, you know, shitload of money. But Nate George only had 1 scholarship last year. He was going to Seattle U. So was that me recruiting him or whatever? I wasn't in college. That was somebody missing the evaluation.
So are you saying you have to evaluate 10 through 15 now? More so, that's where you find the diamonds in the rough?
What I'm saying is, you got to go watch basketball.
find the right players.
See, everybody gravitate to the high level AAU game, but sometimes you got to go in the mom and pop gym and you got to look at them guys too. And see, that's what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See, people don't want to develop; they want to just put out. But see, what happens is, it's going to happen. You see it in football more. You see it in collegiate football more. You see it in basketball, but it'll eventually get to basketball. You do get fired for paying the wrong players. So you got to do the evaluation. So would you rather invest in a player that you know their parents or whoever they deal with, maybe they got an agent, maybe they don't, the high school coach, the AAU people, I'd rather invest in this. And then I'd rather find me some freshmen that's pretty good. And then I'd rather go in the portal and find people to serve. Because if somebody in the portal, they're in the portal for a reason, even if it's somebody's top scorer. Because whatever they did it there, it don't mean they'll do it at your school, but they in the portal for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta always be leery of it. There's always something there. It's not always the school's fault that he left from. You know, so I look at it a little bit different. It's actually kind of fun, but it's probably my background more than anything. If you look at the really good NBA teams, I was fortunate enough. I spent those couple years in Boston. We developed Luke Cornell. He became a rotation player. Sam Hauser. We developed him. He became a rotation player. They started in Maine. By their third year, now they became contributors on a world championship team. So what's wrong with finding that 11, 15 with the development? And so what happens is that nobody's patient with that process. Because you can't get 11 good players because they're not going to buy in. Because once they see they're not playing, they're going to transfer.
Players have to buy in too and want to stay and get developed.
You got to know who you're investing in. That's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah.
You know, it's most people that can't keep guys, not the good guys. I'm talking about these guys. Like you gotta develop. And so development is more than basketball. Development is a relationship with the kid. See, my thing is that if I lose a kid for being honest, I'm all right with it. Because I'll be honest with you. I don't ever want to lose a kid for any other reason than being honest. You know what I'm saying? Because you invest in these kids. I had a kid leave last year. I was disappointed he left because I know what I invested in him. You know what I mean? And I know who he is through and through. I know that kid. And I was disappointed because, you know, I invested in him. And he allowed outside sources to change what he thought. When I could have went the other way on him. But I didn't. I chose to stick with him. And he got better. And so that was like a year of development that, you know, although I got disappointed, I'm not mad that I did that development for him. Because if he had success, I still did my job because I gave him a little more, right? So it's like Danish Jenkins went to St. John's. Danish Jenkins, the guard that went to St. John's last year, right? Most people don't know. They just talk about him with Rick Pitino. You know who found him? You know how he got to college? Damon Stoudamire. You know what Danish Jenkins was? Danish Jenkins from Dallas, Texas. He ain't had no scholarships. No scholarships. I go down there to Dallas and I see him play for 5 minutes. I offer him a scholarship. This is when I'm the head coach at Pacific. I told him, I said, now look, this is what's going to happen. When I offer you this scholarship, your area school is going to offer you because nobody want to look like they got egg on their face if I came down here and hollering. It ain't about Pacific it's not about Pacific giving you the scholarship, because that don't mean as much about Damon Stoudamire, because they're going to be like, damn, he must have seen some of his kid. That kid got 3 offers after I offered him, but he came to me, and I won 23 games with him as a freshman. And when I went to the pros, I put him at JUCO, and then he went with Rick. But my point is that you have to watch everything now. See, it's kind of like, and I say this in all due respect to them guys, because I respect. And the one thing I have respect for high-level jobs. It's hard to be at Duke and Carolina and all that stuff, because people in this region, they care about 5 stars. So to go and get a guy that don't look as sexy as this guy, you got to be able to take that one on the chin. You got to be able to have you got to be able to have, a lot of skin to yourself, because, people will kill that. But for me at Tech, the beauty of it is I'm able to do those things. I do have an awareness that might not work for some people. I'm not saying I would do it a different way, but I'm just saying it might not work for some people. But I just feel like the development of guys, my track record has always said that development is key. Brian Dongo didn't start on his high school team. Brian Dongo was an afterthought because he played with Bay Fall. Bay Fall was McDonald's All-American. Brian Dongo came off the bench. Bai was one of 16 freshmen in this league ever to average 12 and 8. Another 15 all in the NBA.
Coach, I hope that this is an appropriate question. There's a narrative sometimes around Georgia Tech being a team that, I guess, quote unquote, playing basketball second, just be so concerned more so with the academic side and so on and so forth. When it comes to finding balance within that, because it is Atlanta, it is a hotbed, it is a lot of guys that's from here, so on and so forth. What is your approach to that in general, just as a coach of Georgia Tech?
I think you got to find the kids that, on the initial when you start out, you look at guys like, and I do a lot of studying of this stuff. You look at Coach Drew at Baylor, and you look at how he did it like on the initial. He didn't go after these big names. He went after guys that worked hard. He kind of went 50 to 150, so to speak, and kind of plugged away at it. And when I look at a school like Georgia Tech, I think there's a lot of stereotypes that go to it. I do agree with what you said, but there's a lot of stereotype to it. It is a hard academic school, but no different than anywhere, man. You go to class, you just got to do the work. You know what I mean? I think that in terms of the kids that come through Atlanta, you're going to win some battles and you're going to lose some. Atlanta's different from this standpoint. You got Atlanta kids, and you got kids that want to leave Atlanta. Yeah. If that makes sense. It's true. Oh, yeah. We can go down the line. I don't want to talk about another player, but I would say this. There's a kid I know for a fact that comes and work out at Georgia Tech all the time. And he one of the best basketball players in the world. And there's no question in my mind, if I'd have been the head coach of Georgia Tech, he wouldn't have had to go down the street. Want to know why? Because he an Atlanta kid. When you get Atlanta kids, man, they don't care about nothing outside that. They like, I'm going there. And these dudes been covering. They know, exactly what I'm talking about. You get Atlanta kid, like, I ain't going nowhere. I don't need to go nowhere, coach. That's what I got kids saying that right now. And then there's some kids that are just good enough where they can go anywhere they want to, and I totally get that, and I respect them, and I would never, knock them for that. But I think that Tech is placed what we're building, and I think that as we get better, I think that it'll make recruiting easier. You know what I mean? It's never going to be where you get complacent with it, but I think it'll just make it easier because we don't need every player, from the area. We just got to get the ones we want.
Yeah, you mentioned you don't think you guys are far off. The biggest thing is consistency, obviously. The ways you guys had last year, you showed that you're capable of having the best teams in the league.
Right.
If you guys can do that and be more consistent and get close to postseason contention or into the postseason this year, what would that sort of do, you think, for the ACC as a whole, improving the league's image and making that path maybe a little easier in the future?
I think the ACC need Tech to be successful. It's the biggest market. Everything come through Atlanta. I think the ACC need Tech to be successful. From how I seen it, when Tech was successful, it made the league better. I think it's the one school that makes this team, makes the league extremely better because you got Carolina, you got your mainstays. We get that, right? But when I think of Tech, when Tech is really good, it makes this league good. And when Tech is really good, they usually make a run or two. You know what I mean? So it's not like so it's not
all for nothing. They're like for nothing.
So it's not like it's not like they just it's just a quick hit and go boom. But when it was consistent, there was about an 8 to 10 year window where it was like, okay, you counted on Tech. You just say, oh, you pencil them in Tech, gonna be a turning team.
Tournament, maybe Final Four, yeah.
Right. So, I don't believe we're that far off. We had some great opportunities to capitalize on it last year. We didn't. But this year, the way I see it and what I'm preparing for is, and I keep talking about mentality because 12 of our first 15 games at home. So if you get to Christmas break, before conference and you got that momentum going in the league, anything's possible. So I do believe we're right there. Now we got to put it together. We got to play games,
right.
But I do believe we're close.
Do you think your kids feel the same way?
I think they do. But I try to make them scared on purpose. I try to make them scared of the moment. I do because the moment, like you got to be ready for the moment, man. Like you get a window, you get a window every year that's gonna make or break your season. And I don't know when that's gonna be, but you get a window. I said that last year. The biggest mistake I made as a coach, I'd never do it again. The biggest mistake I made last year was scheduling. And I'm not ashamed to say it. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made. The biggest mistake I made is we had 9 days off between. We went to Hawaii and we lost in the championship game to Reno, and we didn't play again until Florida State. That was the biggest mistake I made because I killed our momentum. If we would have just kept playing, if we would have had a game, we would have had a game after Christmas, so we would have knocked some rust off. Then maybe you go to Florida State, maybe you win, maybe you don't, but you got 3 home games. And so that to me that killed us, and some of that was on me. I won't do that again. I'm always gonna play that game. I'm always gonna play that one game before we play that first conference game. Yes.
Coach, can you speak on the importance of the guys that come back and give back, and guys that went off to the league or whatever, what have you, coming back to be around some of the guys in your group, and who may be some of those guys that you have been seeing?
You mean at Tech?
Yeah.
Or
just former Tech guys, or even if they're not former Tech guys, but just other guys that have been coming in.
Okay. Well, I think the biggest thing, to be honest with you, is just coming back and, to me, giving back and coming all shapes and sizes. I never think it's appropriate to ask a man for his money. That's just kind of how I am. But it's not nothing to come back and give time and talk to the kids. You know what I mean? Like that's invaluable knowledge, and that's why I try to share as much with them as I can. But we got a lot of people that came back in the fold and been around. And like I say, one of the guys I'm excited about, and this because I had already known him. Because I love him. I think Derek Favor's a good guy.
Okay.
And so Derek been coming back around, and he's done a little coaching. So Paul is the G League coach of the Clippers. So he went out there and did a mini camp with Paul. I just want to I told him, I said, man, I don't need nothing for you but your time. I said, because you're an Atlanta guy, people really like you, and I was like, there's nothing, I think that there's nothing better, than a guy that left so young. He couldn't appreciate it because you was caught up in trying to make it, and I get that, but now, come meet some of the people that help make things possible for you, but then come back and just talk to the kids and tell them and share your experiences, man. That's something that, he's been doing, and Dennis Scott is, he's been around. I mean, hell, I've met walk-ons. It's walk-ons that played at Tech, and it's just been a lot of I try to just leave the gym open as much as possible to get as much traffic as I can, because how I remember Georgia Tech, was from when I was in school.
What was your thoughts on that?
And when they were one of the best schools, you know what I mean? During that era, that was, it was, in terms of point guard, you either went to Georgia Tech or Arizona.
Yeah. That's a good point. Try to get a lot of them guys to come back and just give a message to the kids. Like I said, that's all I look for. Thank you, Coach.
It seems interesting with the way you schedule that you're making it so that you're not screwing yourself up because you got to play the 20 league games, and you're not playing too many of these like difficult matchups, but a lot of them are on the road or a neutral site or whatever, so you get more bang for your buck for playing those. Was that something conscious that you were thinking of in your schedule?
Yeah, for me, when I looked at our schedule, or when I looked at the schedule, what I wanted to do, I just wanted to make sure there was a balance to it. There wasn't a balance to our schedule last year. So it was kind of, we had these game after game after game after game, and then you didn't know who you was going to play in the challenge, man. Bam, they give you Mississippi State, so you just don't know, man. You're like, hey, so, I just wanted more of a balance, and then as it comes, when you look at the first 2 months of the season, just like I thought, they give us Carolina and Duke. So you got Carolina and Duke. You got Carolina. So when you talk about the teams that we play, in December, we got those home games. But we got a couple games early. We got those 2 games, Georgia and Cincinnati. Cincinnati's supposed to be pretty good. Georgia, you never know how they're gonna be, but obviously they got the potential to be good. Then you got Northwestern. You got Oklahoma. Then you got Duke, and you got Carolina. So I mean, again, you're still jumping up there, and you got a lot of games that if you can handle some business, you know what I mean. You put yourself in position. If you can split them 2 conference games, and get them other 2. You know what I mean?
You mentioned Nate and Bai being their second year. It's your second year too. How do you feel about making any sort of jump? Have you changed anything going into year 2 that you haven't already talked about?
Well, I won't say I've changed anything, but just I'm not going to be as tolerable for certain things. There was a couple times that, not a couple times, but as the year went on, sometimes you got to figure out, how to coach when you're getting towards the end of the year, because you got to see who's still actually playing for something. More so what I'm saying. So it got to a point where if you really look at the lineups I was playing last year towards the end, and we winning 4-5. I was playing guys who I've invested in, thinking they, for the most part, coming back. And so I did get 3 of them back. But my point is, and that is, I'm not going to be as tolerable for the lack of attention to detail and all the things that just didn't go away from that standpoint. I'm just not going to do that. Like, we ain't skipping no steps. We got to, we got to create good habits. And there was just a lot of times that we lost because we had bad habits.
Let's continue outside, guys.
Okay.